All right, good afternoon. Yeah, good afternoon. I'm thinking this morning. Good afternoon. I hope everyone is well. It's like such a beautiful day outside, but I am inside. So I'm just gonna get started. So when I was a student, my senior year, I went to Howard. My senior year at Howard, I lived on, I believe it was 14th and Fairmont. It was a apartment building. We stayed in this guy. He was a photographer, and we would. I remember where we was going one day, but we were walking somewhere. Like I think that was Fairmont. It was down the hill. I can't remember shit. 14th and U maybe. And we went to this little small restaurant. Yeah, I mean, you know DC. You know how the buildings and the housing and everything is. So it was a very tiny restaurant. Uh, it was Italian. Uh, the name of the restaurant was Kopi's. And I don't know. I guess we just went there to get a drink or something like that. It was hot. I can't remember, but it was afternoon, so they really were not like. Maybe they had just opened for lunch, or they were in between lunch and dinner. I can't remember, but it was nobody in there except the employees and the owner. And we just got to talking, and he said to me, he said, "This looked like a place you would work," because I wasn't working. And I said, "Yeah, it did kind of have that feel." And I said, "Well, maybe I should apply for a job because I need a job." So, back then it wasn't going online and applying and whatnot. And the owner was sitting right there. So I asked her, I was like, "Do you have any, do you have a job?" And she asked me if I wanted to be a server or a hostess. I'm pretty sure I said a hostess because I had never been a server before. So she said, "Okay, I don't even think I had to fill out an application." It was just like, come on. Back then it was easy to get jobs. You know what I'm saying? You just walk. I mean, I rarely had any issues with getting jobs. You just walk right on in. Sometimes you fill out the paper application. They interview you right on the spot. When can you start? I can start, today, tomorrow, whenever. Okay, it's like just come on in, and that's pretty much how that went. And like I said, she didn't even ask me. I don't even recall filling out an application. So she gave me. I got the job. I know. I'm pretty sure it was a authentic Italian pizza. The owner was a married couple, a man and a woman. They had two restaurants. They had Kobe's, and then which is where I was working, and then right up the street, uh, right over on the next block was Polly's Cafe. And pretty much the staff kind of worked both restaurants, but there was separate staff in each at the same time. Like for certain things, like the head chef, he did not work at Polly's Cafe, or did he? He might have gone down here sometimes. I can't remember, but I know I worked both of them. But initially, I was just working at Kobe's, and eventually, I became a server. It was so small that we didn't have our own sections. The servers didn't have their own sections. Everybody just worked the entire restaurant. Like I said, it was authentic Italian pizza. The owner was a woman and a man. They were married. They came from New York, and each of them had owned restaurants in New York. But this was the story. um, they were married to different people in New York. Okay, and they had their restaurants in New York. They had an affair. Okay, divorced their spouses, married each other, and moved to DC. All right. But anyway, it was like I said, it was authentic Italian pizza. The husband, he was half Italian and half French, and he named the restaurant after an Italian biker. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Whose last name was Kobe. Let me see if I can find it. Very, well known. Very, yes. Fausto, Fausto. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but Fausto Coppi, nickname Il Capi, Campionissimo, champion of champions. He was a renowned Italian cyclist, considered one of the greatest of all time. So that's who he named that restaurant after. Polly's Cafe was American fare. So anyway, me working there, I learned so much about so many different kind of foods that I had never heard of before. It wasn't just a typical, like American pizza place, with there was no red sauce or any of the pizzas. The menu was written in, Italian and whatnot. So anyway, I learned a whole lot about foods that I had never heard of before, and it was really good. One of my favorite desserts there they had was Nutella. It was Nutella wrapped in dough, and they had the brick oven, the open brick oven, and they wrapped the Nutella in the dough, put it in. The owner, he would have, what was it, sambuca. Every shift, every night he had sambuca. They would make him some sambuca, and we could wear whatever we wanted. There was no. We didn't even have T-shirts that said Kobe's on or anything. We could wear whatever we want. It was so laid back. It was one of the best places I ever worked. I never liked jobs. I like working, but I don't like working. If that makes sense. I don't like to have to work, but I like working. But anyway, so eventually, they knew I was a senior. They were very nice people. They had me working at Polly's Cafe. Eventually I started serving. Then they had me working at Polly's Cafe. That was all American fare. I did brunch on, was it just Sundays? I think that was the only, maybe Saturdays and Sundays. I worked brunch. Same thing. It was foods that I had never heard of before. Never had. Learned a lot about, foods, different kinds of foods even there. So I had a good time. Not a lot of staff, wasn't a lot of black people that worked there. It was me, another black guy who, I think he worked more Polly's Cafe. Even though staff were both, you had some who were more at one restaurant than the other. I was more at Kobe's than I was at Polly's Cafe. Polly's Cafe, I worked brunch on Saturdays and Sundays. During the week, I was at Kobe's. A girl, she was mixed, and me. That was it as far as people of color. Well, there were a lot of Hispanics that worked the kitchen, and I can tell you one thing. I've worked in a few other restaurants since then. Working at Polly's Cafe and Kobe's really spoiled me because I worked in some restaurants where the kitchen was filthy, absolutely disgusting. Working at Polly's Cafe and Kobe's the first time. I don't even know if those restaurants are there anymore. It's been so long. The kitchen was spotless. Spotless, I promise you, spotless. You could eat off the floor. It was that clean in the kitchen. Okay, the whole restaurant. They did not play that shit. Okay. And, like I said, in DC, the buildings, everything are, you have your row houses and whatnot, and everything is so tight, small, that when we got there, we walked up these steep wooden steps to put our stuff in, and hopefully you didn't fall, coming back down into the restaurant to work. And then after work, we sit around and talk and, for closing and whatnot. So because everyone worked the whole restaurant, we would pool our tips, which, I had never served before, but I knew that most places didn't do that. And I really didn't like that, because I'm like, well, I'm thinking to myself, how can we trust each other? There was one particular young lady there. Now, DC is a college town. You got Howard, you got the university, was it UDC, University of DC, District of Columbia. You had Georgetown, was American University, George Washington. I don't know if it was university or college. So a lot of colleges and universities in the area. So there was one girl who worked there. She obviously came from a very wealthy background. She was very spoiled. She would have the nerve to be stealing the tips. It's like, and I think she got caught one time. Somebody called her out for it. But if something happened where you actually kind of ended up working that table the whole night, if people saw it, they'd be like, no, you just keep that tip. You work that table the whole night. But again, the place was this big. I learned a lot about people. I learned a lot about your groups of people who will tip and who will not tip. Who will tip the whole, whatever the percentage is. What was it? 10%, 15%. People who will just tip you maybe like $1 or something, but they're going to tip. Usually I found that, and I'm going to be straight up, I found that black people who came in, a lot of times black people who came in, were like, they would get in there and they'd be like, well, what is this? They would just look for someplace to eat and they just happen to find it or whatever. Look at the menu and be like, oh, you know what I'm saying? What is this? And then look at me and I'd be like, no, you really don't leave. Try it. The food is good. I promise you'll like it, Most of the time, if I could get them to stay, they would stay. And they'd say, oh, it was good. It was different, but it was good, They would always tip. I'm talking about like older people. And I don't mean old. I mean like beyond college age, late 20s on up. They would always tip. It may not have ever been what the state percentage was for recommendations for tips, but they would, the gratuity, I think it was 15%, but they would always tip like $1 to something. College students, it didn't matter what color they was. For the most part, they wasn't tipping. It didn't matter. They just didn't have it. Shit, sometimes if they did, it'd be $1. White, black, purple, green. It's just how it was. I have found that white people always tipped, and they always tipped the 15% all the time. Okay, black students or black young people, you could forget it. They weren't gonna give you shit. No matter how hard your ass worked, they didn't give a damn if you were black. They weren't gonna give you a motherfucking thing. Okay. I had just, and then when I worked in other restaurants, I had kind of found, okay, it wasn't just there, it was the same shit. Okay, you really didn't see too many black people coming in Polly's Cafe. Polly's Cafe was that restaurant where they had the shelled peanuts, and you eat them and throw the shells on the floor. So of course, the first time I went in there, and I was like, went there to work, and I was like, what is all this on the floor? Y'all not gonna clean this up? You know what I'm saying? And they explained to me, the culture behind that. I was like, okay. So I got used to that. I had never heard of samosas, and it's brunch. The food, just eggs Benedict, stuff like that. I had never heard of any of that stuff at that point in my life. So being in that environment and whatnot, even a couple of the guys that worked in the kitchen, the Hispanic guys, me and one of them, we got kind of cool with one another. So, and his English was not that great, but he invited me and a friend who went with me. I'm trying to think. We went to the beach one time. I'm trying to think, was it, I don't think it was Paz. I'm thinking it might have been Andrea. I can't remember. But anyway, we went to the beach. We had a good time. One time we were working and the toilet was stopped up. So they asked one of the guys in the kitchen to go take care of it. And when he went to, it was I guess they put a whole bunch of toilet tissue in there and lettuce. It was just weird. And he went to grab it to clean it up, and it was a needle in there they were trying to cover up. He pricked himself. So that was a whole big affair, big issue. But anyway, let me get to what I'm talking about. So, well, I'll just say this. I lived, like I said, up the hill, so it was really walking distance. But DC's blocks was long blocks. So it was walking distance, all right, but it was a long fucking walk. So my boyfriend, I lived in one building. He lived kind of across the street in the house. He would pick me up, when I would work at night. When we were close, he would come get me. So they kind of got to know him and everything. Well, hell, eventually we broke up, but I continued to work there. And when I graduated from college, they gave me a job as a bartender. This is a funny story. And I was like, well, they were like, we want to congratulate you. We want to help you out since you just graduated. We're going to make you a bartender for lunch. since you're staying for the summer. And I was like, but I'm not a bartender. I don't know. I don't have any certification in bartending. They were like, that's okay. You'll be okay. You'll learn. We got books back there. And I was like, yeah, but I don't know alcohol. I don't know what's what. And they were like, it's okay. The head cook, because everything was open. So the head cook, where they cook the food and everything, it was right there next to the bar. It was like, he'll be there. He'll help you and walk you through it. And I was like, I was real uncomfortable with it, but I was like, okay. They were like, we just want to give you some extra money. And I was like, okay. So one time these two guys came in. They were foreign, and I don't remember where they were from, but they didn't speak a lot of English. They ordered this liquor. I can't even tell you to this day what it was. I don't remember. And I looked at the head cook, and I was like, I don't even know where to find this. He looked sometimes like he was irritated by the whole situation, but he was cool about it, at the same time. So he got the bottle and he gave it to me. I said, okay. He said, you serve it in that glass. And it was a tall glass. And I said, okay. So, I put the glasses in front of him. And the first one, I'm pouring it. I'm pouring the alcohol, the liquor, whatever it was, all the way to the top. And he looked over, he said, oh my God, what are you doing? And I said, well, didn't you tell me to pour this in this glass? He was like, yeah, but not that much. I was like, well, what do you mean? He was like, you're only supposed to pour like this much. I was like, I didn't know. I said, this is what I was telling them. I don't know nothing about this shit, And the guys, they were like, it's okay, it's okay. It was so funny because they saw what I was doing and they saw that I didn't know what to do, but they just played it off so cool, right? They just kept on talking. So when they saw him there kind of fussing at me, but he was like, it's okay, she's just fine. She can keep pouring just like this. And the thing about it was, you know what I'm saying? Like, I had already poured the one guy's glass. I couldn't pour it out. You know what I'm saying? And I said, oh, shit. I said, well, what do I do with the other one? The head cook, he threw up his hands. He was like, just go ahead and fill it up. He said, because you can't do one, just the whole customer service thing. And we all just had a good laugh about that. I just knew I was going to be in trouble. But, he told him, I told the owners what happened too. And by the time I told them, the other man, he was like, he had an accent too. He was like, I know already. He told me it's just fine. And I said, y'all still want me to bartend? He said, yes, you're going to be just fine. They were really, really good people, right? Those are people that I really missed. I loved them. They were great. I loved the staff. I just had a ball. Now, let me get to the part I'm trying to get to concerning that. I don't remember when this guy started working. I don't remember if he started working, if he was already working there, and I just, because of my schedule at first, I didn't work with him. Or, because like I said, at first I was a hostess. And eventually, it didn't take long before they, had me serving, which I was cool with it because I saw how small the restaurant was. It really wasn't a big deal. Now, when I was a student, and this was my senior year, this was 90, when I graduated in 94. This was 93, 94. My style at the time was not common. Now, these things, the things that were unusual back then are real common now. So I wore my hair like this, okay? I've shown you pictures and everything where I basically had no hair, okay? That was not common. Even though I went to HBCU, that was not a common thing. Matter of fact, people looking at, when I first did it, people looking at me crazy, strange on campus. Guys like girls with long hair, all of this type of shit. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't a whole lot of girls walking around campus with their hair like this at that time. I had a nose ring. Well, a lot of, back there in DC, that was not an uncommon thing. But in general, that was an uncommon thing. Okay, you didn't see a whole lot of women walking around with nose rings. I mean, now they pierced everywhere. Okay, my taste was, I had a broad range. I liked a lot of different things. Okay, it was kind of eclectic. I was really kind of I liked the whole grunge thing back then. So I used to wear these almost much smaller. I would go to the thrift store, get my jeans and stuff, rip them up, put paint on them, do all kind of shit, Like now you go to the store, you can buy jeans with holes in them. It wasn't like that back then, okay? We didn't have the spandex shit in our jeans back then either. But I would go to the thrift store and get these jeans, and rip them up. And so I had these holes in my jeans, and I would wear, what are those undergarments called, when it's called, like long johns. wear long johns up under them because it was cold, you know what I'm saying? And I'd have on a long john shirt, you know, but I wouldn't put a top on it. I just had that shirt long sleeve. And I had my boyfriend's, he had one, I took his, so it was kind of big on me, you know. So I wear, excuse me, I wear the boots, you know, just kicks, you know what I'm saying? That was my style. Okay, it was different. All right. So it was like, you know, that thing was Nikki's different, you know. My taste in music was different. It was just, I just like, was just open, you know. I like a lot of different things. And when I say different, I mean to the community that I was raised in. I just like, I mean, I got so many stories about that alone, you know, where people who used to look at me like I was strange and whatnot. And, you know, they still do, but that's cool, you know. But back then, I think by the time, you know, I was a senior in college, you know, I was around different people who kind of more appreciated it. They would look at me like some of my friends would be like, you like what? What is that? You know what I'm saying? But I could get them to try it or look into it, and they would laugh at me. We had good laughs about it, and whatnot. But it was all in fun, you know. And sometimes they would find that they liked it. You know, I would be the one. I used to be walking along the street somewhere, and I see some restaurant, and I'd be like, "Oh, what's that? I want to try that." And I tell them, "Come on, y'all, let's go here." And they'd be like, "Girl, what is that? You know, what is that place?" I was like, "I don't know. I just found it. Let's go try it." And they would be hesitant, but they would, you know, go and be like, "Oh, it was cool. It was pretty good." Yeah, you know. But anyway, that was there. I was around. I feel like people who were more open as opposed to the community that I grew up in here in Cleveland, Ohio. The same motherfuckers who are bothering me now because, you know, people, that's how people are when you're different. You know, they don't understand it. They don't like it. You're not part of the crowd, especially if you're the type of person who's not interested in being a part of the crowd. They think that you do want to be a part of their community. They think that you do want to be part of the crowd. Or they want to believe that you want to be a part of it. And when you don't show interest in being a part of it, and you pretty much can stand on your own and just be your own person and not have an issue with that, people really hate that. You know, that they get mad, you know, and they seek to destroy you because how dare you not want to be a follower and a sheeple like the rest of us, you know? But at the same time, usually people who are like that and just walk to the beat of their own fucking drum, you know, they're not looking at others who do want to be a part of the crowd and the community in any way, shape, or form. That I feel like people like that, those that are kind of be categorized as sheeple, like I said, they kind of they get offended, you know, by your independence. And I think that they have these thoughts of you that you are looking down on them, or that, I mean, the person who's just an independent person and being their own person and having their own style, they think, I feel like they think that you are looking down on them, or that you're being condescending just in your manner. You ain't thinking about them at all. You ain't talking about them, nothing. You're just doing your own thing, being your own you. And it's like something in them feels like you're being condescending to them by being your own person. And it's like you're not even really thinking about them, you're just simply living your life. So that's that projection type that I talked about yesterday, like crazy ass lying ass gonorrhea Brianna Maria Jewel Escobar Gaviria. Like I sent her a picture of me one time. I had a scarf on and a t-shirt. I think she probably came all over her panties. Oh my God! Oh, you look so different. Ah! You know, all in the text or whatever, and it's like whatever. It's just a scarf and a t-shirt. But anyway, and yes, bitch, I still have the texts. So anyway, there was this guy who worked at that restaurant. She's gay and left. But there was this guy who worked at that restaurant. Yeah, I had a nose ring. I don't have it anymore. I gotta tell you guys a story about the first time I got my nose pierced. But I'll get to that another time. He was white. He was a student. Most of us that worked there I don't know about most of us, but there were quite a few of us that worked there that were students. He went to Georgetown, and I believe he was a graduate student. I can't remember his name. I've been trying to. It's so funny. He came up in my thoughts today, but I had been thinking about him a few days ago. It's just interesting how life works. He was tall. He was thin. And I promise you, I thought he was so fucking attractive. I mean, wow, when I saw him. And I remember having this feeling one of the first shifts that I worked with him, thinking, I get to work with him. So, like I said, it was small. It was very laid back. One of the best places I've ever worked. The owners were cool and laid back, very laid back atmosphere. So we would talk while we were working. I mean, it was hopping though. That place, especially when it rained. Oh my God, it would rain. You would think people would stay home. Like if it's thunderstorming, that's when the place would be packed. But anyway, so we got to talk, but we were working at the same time. It was busy. It was no joke, okay? He was so funny. He was so funny. He used to crack me. I'd be laughing back there, laughing and cackling all loud and shit. You know what I'm saying? I'd just be talking to him. I loved talking to him. I do not remember his name. I was trying to think of his name today. And there are two names that are popping in my head. One is Roger and one is Jack. But I can't remember. I keep thinking Roger, but there's something about Jack as well. Because I don't remember saying Roger, but I do remember saying Jack, but I'm not sure, okay? Because Roger is what popped up in my head. He was, like, again, tall, he was thin, he had dark hair. And I just loved him. I did. I really, really liked him. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, I liked him like liked him. I was like him. You know what I'm saying? Like I wanted to be his girlfriend. Liked him like that. I wanted to be his woman. Okay? I liked him. But he told me one day, I don't remember when he told me or how he told me he was gay. And I thought to myself, well, dang. You know what I'm saying? Damn. Okay. So again, we worked the whole restaurant. In the front of the restaurant, that was the largest table. Okay, you put a lot of people at that table. I don't remember how many. But he was telling me some of the issues that he was going through because of his sexuality. Now, he was a type that, you don't want to be stereotypical or anything like that. But, I'm talking about a whole different time period, okay? You wouldn't have looked at him and thought that he was gay at all. There was nothing about, we did have a bartender there who was gay. He was so funny. Oh my God, he was so funny. He was blonde. He had been a dancer. He was too funny, and he was very, very much gay. And he told us one time that he had gotten to an argument with his mother. Now, he was in his 30s. He had been a dancer, so he was retired, okay, in his 30s for dancers. You know how that goes, okay? And he said he was talking to his mother. Him and his mom got into some kind of argument, some kind of fight. This was like the night before, and he said that he told her, well, guess what? I'm gay. And his mother said, oh my God, I know that. You think I didn't know that you've been gay ever since you were 3 years old or something like that? It was so funny. But anyway. So, and one time he came to work. He was all scarred up, black, bruised up. I was like, what the fuck happened to you? Well, DC, some of the housing is like, there's a basement area or lower level, but you don't go to it through the first floor. You go in from the outside, but you have to go around these deep bends, okay, to get to the door, okay? So there could be people in those bends that, the bend, B-E-N-D, you would never see them going down the steps. And he said that's what happened. He was going to his place, his apartment, and there were some guys around the bend, and they beat him up, and because he was gay. And it was like, oh my God, but he had gone through that that wasn't unusual for him. He was telling us. It was, really sad. But he was fun. He was fun. Oh my, it was just a cast of characters that worked there. I could go on and on, but I want to stay on the story with this guy, Roger Jack, whatever his name is. And like I said, I really, really liked him. He kind of puts me in the mind of, now that I have shared with you, I found out the truth about my birth mother, okay? And I've seen some of her ancestors, who I look like. One of them I look like she spit me out. Her son, this guy looks like him. Okay, but anyway, I'll say this, puts me in the mind of him, okay? Because I haven't seen him, of course, in years. So one night, he was telling me about this event at his, that he was, I can't remember what he studied. I don't know if it was law or medicine, something along those lines. And I knew that he came from wealth, not rich, wealth. You could tell that he came from a wealthy home, a wealthy family, but he really downplayed it. Let him tell it. He just came from, maybe some upper middle class, but it was very obvious you're lying, motherfucker. You come from some money, serious money. It's obvious. It's written all over your fucking face, okay? But he would try to downplay it. But he was telling me one night that there was an event that he had to go to, and it was like a black tie affair or whatever. He really didn't want to go, and I was like, well, why not? And he was like, well, I think it had just come out that he was gay. He was trying to hide it or whatever, but it had come out all over campus or whatever, his community was on campus, this, that, and other, and he didn't want to go. And I said, well, what are you going to do? He was like, well, I have to go. I said, well, and he was saying he had to take someone. And I wanted to go. I wanted to go because I loved him. I mean, he was funny. He was fun. He was attractive. I didn't give a fuck that he was gay. I don't care. I still like him. Fuck it. You know what I'm saying? But I said, he would never talk to me. He would never talk to me in that way because, first of all, I don't care what the fuck he says. It's obvious he comes from some serious money. Probably some old ass money. In fact, it's very obvious. Number one. Number two, he was I could tell his background was very white, okay? And I knew that he would be shunned like a motherfucker, even if it was just a friend going with him, having a black woman on his arm, okay, there at the event. I had a beautiful dress and everything. I was like, I got this dress. I begged him, like, please let me go with you, please, please, please. And he was like, I can't. And he was honest. He didn't go into the specifics, but he was honest. He was like, I can't take you. I can't take you to that. And I was like, I know. You know what I'm saying? So one day, again, a small restaurant. In the front of the restaurant, there was the biggest table, okay, which sat, maybe that table might have sat like between 8 to 10 people. And we're working one day, and all these guys come in, young white guys come in, and he looked at it, he turned on, he was like, oh no. And I was like, well, what? What's wrong? He was like, would you take that table? Because they took the front table. And I said, yeah. I said, what, you want me to work it the whole night? You want to split it up? He said, no, you just work it the whole night. He said, whatever tip. He said, don't pull it, just take it. I said, sure. I said, but what's the problem? And he said, they're my sorority brothers. Not sorority, fraternity brothers. And I said, so? And he was like, well, this whole thing with him being gay and it coming out and him having some issues on campus as a result of this thing coming out about his sexuality. And I was like, okay, no problem, I'll take it. I took the whole table, the whole night. They tipped me $100, okay? They were cool. I was kind of nervous at first. I thought they was going to give me shit, but they didn't. They didn't. I don't remember. I kind of feel like he was graduating that year as well. I don't remember how we parted. I just know that eventually, I was moving on because I had graduated. I started working the lunch shift, doing the bartending job. And I think there might have been one server during lunch because nobody really came, during that hour. I mean, it wasn't busy or anything. And me, the bartender, the cook, the head cook, and the cooks. That's all that was there. It was always kind of empty. And then eventually I left. I left DC, so I left the job. And I left him. And that's how I felt, because I really liked him. I really liked him as a person. Now, I don't know. This is all speculation. I could say intuition. I don't know if this man at this point has got to be in his late 50s. I'm 53. He's got to be at least 55, 56 years old. I don't even remember where he was from. But I don't know if, or maybe, possibly, allegedly, if he has something to do with these. See, now it's to zero. If he in any way, shape, or form has something to do with the people I've been sharing with you who have been consistently stalking and spiritual harassment and lying on their channel about me, so on and so forth, because he gonna give us $23 million according to Gonorrhea, Maria, Gaviria, Escobar, Brianna Joe Bellamy over there. This man did not come from anything poor financially in any way. He was very straight-laced in his appearance. But he came from a whole different world because of the obvious money he came from. I don't know if it's him. See, there are people who play these dark games. They will fight. And I said, is that why he wanted me to work that table that night? He didn't know that I liked it. I never told him. I was too scared and too shy. He didn't know that I looked at him with the very positive, see, and that's the thing. He didn't know how I saw him. He didn't know what my thoughts of him, my thoughts were of him, because I didn't share that with him. I just every time I saw him, like he's working tonight, I'd light up because he was so fun. I mean, we had so much fun. I had so much fun with him. And he would be laughing and we'd be talking. He was the jokester. Came across as just this sweet, lovable person. But sometimes people that come across like that, they're the exact opposite of that. They're diabolical as fuck. I don't know. I'm just saying. He just crossed my mind, like I said earlier this week. And then I just had been listening and hearing some things. What do they say? Pay attention to the signs and synchronicities. There are people that will pop back up in your life. Some of them, they never left your fucking life, and you don't know that. And they'll pop back up years down the fucking road. And the idea is that you will never know. You would never suspect that person, because surely you forgot about that person. But see, sometimes people don't know the imprint that they leave on your life, because sometimes they don't know the impact that they made on your life at that time. So I don't know. I said yesterday, or whatever day I did the live, something along the lines, I said, I don't know, is it my stepbrother? I don't know if he's behind this or what. But I know it's somebody with power and money behind it. And not about the councilman that I read the article on who was sentenced. No. Sometimes, it's like, I remember I was listening to Bobby Hemmett one time. I mentioned him often because I used to listen, I'd come home, I'd go work out. I had a schedule at one time. I really didn't have to work much. Was I working at that damn gym? Yeah, I was working at that damn gym at the time. It was very part time. I get up in the morning, I work out, get my daughter to school, come home if I work the shift, go home. The shift was only like about 3 or 4 hours tops. Make my waist, get all my jewelry shit out, my waist beads, my beaded body chains, all that shit. I was even making those during the time when I wasn't working at the gym because I enjoyed doing it. And I turned on YouTube. I didn't know anything about Tarot Land. And I'd be listening to Bobby Hemming. And hell, you know, some of them lectures. It was one I pulled up the other day at 8 fucking hours. Okay. And just be listening to him all day. Okay. Like I said, maybe Dr. Pooprum, Deborah Blair, I can't remember all the names. Okay. But usually him. And one thing he said one time, I think he had got like fed up. And he said, black people ain't not gonna make. He said it's over. You're not gonna make it. You're not gonna make it. I'm talking about here in America. I don't think he's talking about the rest of the world. It's just a done fucking deal. Ain't nobody gonna just give nobody $23 million. No matter what the bitch lies about it, all the big names is after us and all of that bullshit. Ain't nobody gonna just give nobody $23 million. Don't work like that. If they're gonna give your motherfucking ass anything at all, it ain't gonna be that. They can make you promises. I mean, unless you an artist of some sort that's signed to their whatever. But we've seen how that works with people like TLC and whatnot coming out. We didn't even get that. Well, by the time you really read that motherfucking contract, you see what the deal be being. Okay, and no, that group is not the only artist that has happened to. Everybody just gonna give no, and your average person don't have that in their pocket to just give no motherfucker. Person with money and power who has made promises to someone that they're going to give them that. They ain't just giving it to you just gently. You're just a powerful spiritualist. We're just going to give you. No, they're not. They will give you some kind of incentive, though, to tear down your own. To tear down people that look just like your motherfucking ass. People, what do they say? We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against powers, principalities, powers, and the rulers of the darkness of this world. People are talking about spiritual warfare. But the people that they're in spiritual warfare with are not the people that they get on here and talk about like a dog, which is somebody that looks like them and living a regular life just like their fuck ass. No matter how much they lie to earthlings and all, bitch, please, and all of the bullshit. No. You're not in spiritual warfare with those people because you had an argument or a misunderstanding or you're jealous of them or you're envious of them. That's not who you're in any kind of spiritual warfare with. Now, I'm hearing the word demented. They may have you, these rulers, powers, they may have you thinking, because you believe everything they tell you to believe. They may have you thinking that that's who you're in spiritual warfare with, but you're not. Because that person that look like you, at least in this 3D realm, living a regular life that you happen to be jealous of for some bullshit ass reason, because what they say, do your shadow work and all that kind of shit, and people not willing to do it, afraid to do it, afraid of themselves, afraid to look at themselves, blah, 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 blah. That ain't the people that you're in spiritual warfare with. And you make up these things, these lies. That one worship that deity and I worship this deity. So we in spiritual warfare. They's want what I got and you don't have shit. The people that you are in spiritual warfare with are the ones who you think gonna give you, and I'm not just talking to her with her dumb fuck ass, but those that you think are telling you they're going to give you $23 million. Rulers. I said before, if you know their names, that ain't them. And I said before, you will be on the motherfucking bus and one of those motherfuckers will be sitting right next to your fucking ass. And you will have no fucking clue. They'll be look like the homeless person on the street. Can you give me some change? And you kick their cup out their fucking hand because you think you're better than them. And they're watching you the whole time behind their screens in their one time, years ago, so pathetic. It's so fucking pathetic. You want to bother and harass and stalk and make up your fuck lies about spiritual warfare with the average person. I say average meaning, I'm talking about in general, who work at a job every day, or they do this shit every day to make them some money, whatever the fuck. Because you want a lifestyle. You want luxuries. You put on your LV, whatever the names of all of this. I don't know, these names that y'all willing, that will people, I'll say this, wear on their fucking back. With like it's a fucking prize. And you don't know that what's being said is that you're a slave to that motherfucker whose name you got written on your back. Years ago, before I ever got on YouTube the first time, I was at my altar doing my prayers, praying. I was a little pissed about something. Because I knew, I didn't know who, what, where, I didn't know that, but I knew, I said, that something was stolen from me. That there was something that someone was supposed to give me and they were not giving it to me. I didn't know who, what, where, when. I didn't know any of that. It was on my nose. Like I said, it would be times, it would be like right here in my fucking face. On my nose. I remember feeling it on the tip of my fucking nose. But I was a little disgusted at that point at the fact that I couldn't figure out who it was. Somebody stole something from me. Somebody was supposed to give me something. And I haven't. I damn sure didn't think it was that woman who raised me, because I thought this was my mommy. So I'm praying about it. I'm saying whatever I feel like I needed to say. Which the church would say, you shouldn't talk like that to the Lord. Okay. But the Lord knows it's in my heart. But at the same time, they tell you, it's by having a relationship. So I'm bitching about it in my prayer. The next thing I know, I have a vision. I saw a young white guy sitting at a desk, and they were like a board of controls. And when I saw the Truman Show and they showed the people, the studio, in that moon thing, I said, that's exactly what that shit looked like when I had that vision. I had the vision before the movie. That's exactly what that shit looked like. And I looked, I said, it's you. And I heard him say to me, he said, okay. He said, I'll fix it. I said, you better fix it. The fuck is this shit? I said, who are you talking to? Who do you have to go? I said, I'm going to be praying to God. Who you? Like when the bitch said, Papa, who this woman? Talking about me. Bitch, please. I was just like, what the fuck are you? And he said, I'll fix it. I said, you better fix it. What is this shit? And then I see the true Michelle. I said, that's exactly what that shit looked like. Because you want shoes and clothes, records, pretense, desperate for it, to stunts on Instagrams and Facebooks and YouTubes and Snapchats and Twitters. Thinking it's just a fucking app. And they're sitting back there with behind that desk at the control booth, playing their fucking game with your fuck asses and watching you fight each other. And programming it with their drugs and their food, fake music, fake this, fake that, telling you to hate each other. And we'll give you $20 million if you take that one's dimes. And the whole time they know that you're not going to succeed because they know who that person is. You don't. And you making vows to them. And they's deities and they's demons. And you's gonna get all this Mondays. Just like on, what was that movie? Devil's Advocate. Or Eyes Wide Shut. Shit like that. We's gonna give it to you. Because we loves you. Nigger. It's not about material things. And while you think it's about some material, we's gonna shut this down. We's gonna shut this down. And she's not gonna be happy. Or he or whoever you're after. And you will never be married, madam. And the bullshit. Not realizing hold on. Hold on. Mark 8:36 from the manual. For what shall it profit a man if he gain the whole world and lose his own soul? This challenges the idea that gaining the entire world, wealth, power, fame, etc., is worth the loss of one's eternal soul. It highlights the idea that material possessions and earthly accomplishments are temporary, while the soul is considered eternal. It implies that the true value lies in spiritual well-being and relationship with God rather than worldly success. The question is followed by another, asking what a person would give in exchange for their soul, further emphasizing its inestimable work. And they know. Well, we got another one. You think that these rulers, powers, principalities of the darkness of the air, or whatever it says, you think that they want material gain? They already have that. They got all the shit that you want. That's why they can give you $23 million. Meaning, if they're going to just give you $23 million, it's not going to break them at all. It'd be like a penny. Like I said, I did a reading one time where it was a Aries reading. I think it was in April, where not this past April, sometime last year. I can't remember where it came up. With their powers so high and so powerful. They're looking at those that you think are the powerful, those quote-unquote 13 families, when really they're 26. They're looking at them like, oh, you're just scraping by. You think that they care about material wealth? Why? Why would they care about that? They already have that. They've been had that now for hundreds of years, probably thousands. They could care less. You're damn right, it is spiritual warfare. Not for material shit. How many souls have they gained? Have they got? And they tell you to just keep on going, keep on going, keep going after that person. Keep going, keep working. You can do it. And they sit there and they're laughing the whole time. Not at the person that you're targeting. Because they probably know that that person that you're targeting, you're not going to hit that target. You're not going to hit that person. But they got you, or I done said this, they got your motherfucking ass already. They got your soul already. So what on a grander scale or a spiritual scale is happening? They have conquered, it appears. They have already conquered the material world. That whole New World Order and World War Order shit, they've been talking about that shit. I remember learning about that shit, like I said, when I was 12 years old. And when I was at 12, this shit had been talked about many years before that. It's not new. They had been talking about this shit. Meaning, if they had been talking about it, when they start talking about it, it's already been put into play. How many times do we have to know? You buy a car, I don't give a fuck what brand car it is, as soon as you drive it, it depreciates in value. Everything that is material wastes and dies away. The soul is eternal. So if they're capturing the souls and powers here, principalities, rulers of the dark. Everybody say it's so evil, this isn't in bad. He's got to get rid of it. If they have already conquered the material realm, then what's next? And how do they conquer it? Through you. Again, the system is so damn intricate and detailed. Do you think anyone or anything, entity, whatever you want to call it, the ruler, whatever, power, who has that kind of power and approaches you with some bullshit, and you go twisting and turning your whole life around, fucking your shit up, bringing all kind of karmic debt into your world and realm, bringing more generational curses onto you and your family and your home and your being. that can last for what? Lifetimes. And while they have a good portion of people doing the bullshit, conquering themselves, becoming soulless beings because they got your soul. They got it. Thank you. You just gave it to me. You just sold yourself out for something that this person, these people, these rulers, powers, whatever, already have. They've already conquered. They got it. They got the material. That means nothing to them. So what the fuck is next? The spiritual realm. The souls. But again, like my sibling told me, I don't give a fuck what they say. Nikki, they do not believe. You don't. And you think it's just going to affect you? And then you make vows that you cannot get out of. And you become a slave to whatever it is they tell you that they're going to pay you for to do. You're a slave to it, and you become desperate, and you become a shell of yourself, and you're no longer yourself, and then you become a soulless zombie. Confirmation, goddamn, and you are still enslaved, yet enslaved, no longer in the material, like working on some fucking cotton field. The whip on your back is now the dollar bill. And you're just groveling at their fucking feet while they sit back and watch and laugh and mock and say, we got it. Not one person's. How many groups of people are doing this shit? Making vows to do something that those rulers know you will never accomplish. It doesn't matter anymore. You've done it. Broad is the way, motherfuckers. Let me see. Let me see if I can find it. Broad is the way. In the manual here. It's a manual. Because we wrestle not with flesh and blood. It's not material. These instructions in this one particular manual I keep reading out of, I read out the Tao Te King. That's another one. The Quran, that's another one. The phrase, broad is the way to destruction, Matthew 7:13 through 14. Let me see. Enter ye in at the straight gate. For wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be who go in. This ain't about what they taught you in church. Another part of the game that has been twisted to keep you bound. It's not doing nothing for nobody. For real. While they sit once again, they showed you in the movie. Like they say, they have to show you the truth. And they do. But maybe we don't think it's literal. Apparently it is. So today, I had to go to the store, to the drugstore. But I had a time. I was working with a very short amount of time. I had to hurry up. I'm driving and on a street that I go down often, just about every day. It's usually steady. steady and moving. Everybody was driving so slow. Oh, what the fuck? Shit, I gotta hurry up. Why everybody driving so slow? Then all of a sudden, as they were just driving so fucking slow, there's a UPS truck. It's two lanes. Then there's a UPS truck. So everybody who was already driving slow had to slowly move over to the next lane to go around the UPS. I'm like, God damn. You know what I'm saying? To go around the UPS truck. Okay. I said, okay, I'll go this way. I'll take a little shortcut. So I go a different way to take the shortcut. I go down the street, and as I'm driving down the street is blocked off, and there's the man waving like, go, you got to go back. I said, boy, if this don't feel like some simulated game shit. Like blocks being put in the way. You remember, like they had that shit on, didn't they have that shit on Triple Show? The man was leaving one point, and then all these cars came just up out of nowhere to stop him, to slow him down. So you know how, okay, so I was driving this car one day, it was white. I looked up about 2-3 days in a row. I never seen so many white cars in my fucking life. I said, look at all this, look at all these white cars. And I said, oh, that happened. You know, when you start driving a particular color car or a particular kind of car, then you see that car everywhere. But normally you don't see it. So one day, I go to turn the corner. I'm at the stop sign. I go to turn, and I look. Here comes just white car after white car after white car. I was like, look at this shit. Just like a fucking game. Just like that motherfucker I saw sitting in that booth, who told me, okay, I'll fix it. And look exacerbated at the fact that I saw his fucking ass. But using spiritual warfare. Or somebody you don't even know. Because you see pictures. Or you was jealous of nothing. And he gonna give us $23 billion. And he's saying, look at the nigger. The what they call the nigger bitch. Groveling. Begging. Thinking that we'd actually give her $23 million. Just using this bitch as an example. She's easy. Dumb. Trying to convince people on an app of some bullshit. When those who have the soul know the truth. Anyway, I don't know. I'm not saying for fact that it is him. But I sure did think about him just out of the blue one day. There are powers, there are people of, just like they talk about this shit on YouTube with Terrell and being shadow banned and all this. It's people at YouTube. I don't know what the fuck it is. I don't know. You know, whatever. There are people, there are forces that are higher than you or I. I was gonna take her lives. Talk about her like dog, say she ain't shit and switch everything around. I'm cute. Everything she said, I was gonna say, I'm cute, sexy. Send my little gnats and flies and fleas. Burn my candles on her and kill her. Have her life. Take her, who man, she's supposed to be with her twins' flames. rulers, the powers, and all of that shit is just sitting back, cracking the fuck up. How many souls in the jar now? They ain't gonna never have this shit. We done took their culture, we done took their magic, we done took all of their resources, we done took their name, we done took their dignity, we done took their morality, we done took all of their shit on that round. Now we're gonna take the shit on the soul round. Confirmation. And how we gonna take it? The mind game and make sure they just give it to us. Just I remember when I was in church, my pastor, who I had an interesting dream about him last week, and I have not been able to make that out. But anyway, in all these years I haven't. But he used to tell us, he was preaching this maybe a few years before he died. And he would say, how is the devil, quote unquote, the rulers, principalities, darkness of the air, blah, blah, blah. Read in the Quran, I'm not bowing down to man made of flesh, made of dirt. Well, I'm made of fire. I'm going to show you exactly who and what the fuck they are. And he's doing a fucking phenomenal job at it. Show you who they are. Show you what they are. But what my pastor would say was, the way that the devil, the darkness, the evil, or the wicked, whatever you want to call it, the opposer, which in Judaism is what Satan was, an opposer. Let me show you what they are. You want me to bow down and worship that? Okay. He said the way that he's going to get humanity now is through the mind. And at the time I was like, I was a little younger, and I was be like, well, okay. I ate up everything he said, absorbed everything he said. But then over time I thought to myself, well, hell, that's how you always get people through the mind. Oh, I'm clear now what he meant. I'm clear. My people perish for lack of knowledge. This is part of the manual. This ain't me. This is the manual. You don't know who these people are. They'll be sitting right next to you. You'll be kicking them over because they look homeless, so that they can go back and say they ain't worthy no fucking way. Look at how they treat their fellow man. That's how we get them. What did Al Pacino say in, what was that movie, Devil's Advocate? If you couldn't get them through greed, you get them through vanity. Right? Ain't that what it was? Hold on, let me look. And I will say this. Pride, greed, wrath, envy, lust, gluttony, sloth. Isn't vanity one of them? Well, I know he talked about vanity in that movie. Yeah, vanity. Oh, maybe that falls under pride. Yeah. Excessive belief in one's own ability or importance, also known as vanity or vainglory. So they show you, they tell you that you showed them, you told them. in their own disgust for their fellow human being, for material things that is already in our hands. It's already in their hands. They don't give a fuck about no material shit. That's not where the power lies. But they know that you believe that's where the power is. And they get you in these things. I ain't even say they get you. You get yourselves in these things because of a proposal. Just like I said before, I was watching one of them movies. What was it? One of them Dracula movies. And when Dracula went to open the door for the man, when he came, the camera panned down to the threshold. The door opened. And showed the guy hesitate. Then he walked in. They're telling you right there in the movie. They're telling you. And that's how he got him. Fucked him up. And I will say these things and people will watch. You people that's bothering me, after me, after my soul, we's gonna kill her and be rich and famous. And they will not give a fuck. They will still continue on because their days wants to be rich and famous. I don't care if I'm a slave or not. I got some money. Alright. But anyway, I don't know. I'm not saying it is that person. But he sure crossed my mind. And he sure had me go to that table with all of those men. Not because of the bullshit reason he told me. Which even at the time, when he told me, the whole story was a little questionable. I was asking a question here and a question there because it didn't make no sense to me. And, you know, it became one of those things where you ask too many questions. Just go, you know, would you do that for me, please? Sure. I don't know, maybe that one older white guy who sent some old silly comment, this was quite a while ago. And I reposted him. Maybe he's a part of it too. I don't know. I'm not saying you are, sir. But your interests did not speak of troll behavior. All right. You all have favor.